Well, we're now joined on the line by Dr. Jilan Wahba Abdalmajid, the Palestine Ambassador to Ireland. Ambassador, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Pat. Good morning.
Now, the extent of what's happening in Gaza at the moment is such that I suspect no Palestinian living anywhere in the world, given the extent of the deaths and injuries, that no Palestinian is untouched by what's happening.
Oh my God, it has been more than 3 months, Pat, for the Palestinians in Gaza and in West Bank. I don't exclude the West Bank as well, but the savage war that launched by Israel against the Palestinian people in Gaza left so far more than 25,000 Palestinians has been killed, and more than 60,000 injured. The thing that really touches any human being on this earth is that Israel is using starvation. I don't want to say, I don't want to talk about the killing. I don't want to talk about the war crimes that committed, using this what in the international law could be translated into genocide. It's using food, starvation, famine. There is no health system. 5 out of 36 hospitals is partially worked in Gaza. There is no place to go. More than 1.9 million of Palestinians has been displaced. We are living in Gaza more than 2.3 millions. To say that more than 1.9 millions displaced, there is no safe place. There is no actually places to sit. Many of those peoples are taking shelters in the UN schools or tents that they put it everywhere in Gaza, especially now in the south. I talk about Rafah that holds more than 1.2 million people. Before, the population of the Rafah on the borders with Egypt, it's 200,000. Imagine the life of every Gazan who live there at the minute. And Israel, they don't say, they don't think of any human being live on this piece of land. It's a 365 kilometers. It's half of the area of County Louth here.
So it's a tiny area, and so
It's a
many people
very,
living there to begin with, and then
yeah.
following the incursion by Israel into the Gaza Strip, they are being forced in huge numbers into an even smaller area near
Yes,
Rafah.
true.
Now, the Israelis would claim, and the ambassador was on with us the other day saying that they are doing their best to allow aid through. What do you say in response to those claims?
Taking this report, a UN expert who said that, what's going in Gaza is genocide. 80% of the people facing famine or catastrophic hunger. This is something that you cannot discuss, you cannot even argue with. We witness this genocide. We witness a live stream what's going on Gaza. There is, the trucks that goes to Gaza, even though if it's go and allow to be enter Gaza, and by the way, it's the decision by the Israelis. They reject so many kinds of aid from countries. This is not allowed. This is not allowed. At the end of the day, I see on my eyes on the international, media platforms, local platforms, social media. I see the people how they are really starving and how they are really suffering.
The question of genocide, and you've mentioned that, and of course there's a case being taken in the International Court of Justice by South Africa against
Yes.
Israel for that. And they reject that totally. They say it's abusing the term genocide against the people that it actually was carried about. And, the ambassador, when she was talking to us, was referring to the Holocaust. When those two comparisons come up, how do you feel?
First of all, the step that has been taken by South Africa was landmark step, taking Israel for the first time in its history to be at the ICJ, at least to give the Palestinian people such kind of believe in international law. We've been failed by humanity and international law. Actually, the case that laid by South Africa, they focus on five main genocidal acts. They focus on the mass killing of the Palestinians, the infliction of serious mental and bodily harm, the forced displacement and blockade on essential supplies, the complete destructions of Gaza healthcare, and the preventing birth in Gaza by blocking the life-saving medical treatment. These are the five pillars of the case of South Africa. And putting it as a genocide, this is up to the court to decide that. But I mean, the case that was presented by the lawyers or the team of lawyers of South Africa was very strong. And we will look at a fair and just resolution that come from the ICJ, at least, as I said, to bring us that there is international law that wouldn't fail the Palestinian and the just cause of the Palestinians.
It may take years before a final judgment is handed down by the International Court.
I know that.
There may be a provisional measure ordered by the court, maybe in the next couple of weeks, which might, for example, insist on an immediate ceasefire.
Yeah.
Would you expect Israel to obey that injunction from the court? Because there was such a one against Russia about Ukraine, and the Russians didn't pay any attention to it at all.
I know that it might, the decision has been taken for the ceasefire. I know that in the Security Council, we've been failed. However, 13 countries, they vote in favor of the ceasefire. I think from what I see, from what's the Palestinian leadership see, that the United States government should take action to implement. If there has been a decision, and the international community should really be strong enough to force this implementation of the ceasefire. I think it's enough for the Palestinian people endure this barbaric war. It's enough for the international law to fail the Palestinian people. There should be a stance and strong stance from the international community to implement this decision. And I hope that it will be taken by the ICJ.
It might be that America, given the electoral pressures on Joe Biden, and in some quarters, obviously, there is a push for the Democratic Party to support the idea of a ceasefire, an immediate ceasefire that doesn't have traction in the White House yet. Joe Biden seems determined to back Israel. And of course, there are political, electoral reasons why he would continue to do so. But by the time this comes about, Netanyahu has indicated that an end to the war, or victory as he would have it, is perhaps weeks or longer away, but those weeks might be sufficient to give the Israelis what they claim they want.
Listen, after more than 3 months, Israel didn't achieve the goals that they just claim, or they said that they will destroy Hamas. And actually what they did is killing the Palestinians, make Gaza unlevel place. They destroy, as I said, the schools, universities, hospitals, bakeries. They destroy everything. Gaza, it's almost become unlivable place for them. War, always, there is no victory in war. But for us, the Palestinians, we have proved to ourselves and for the whole people that we are strong, we are resilient, and we have a just cause. Even though Israel will continue with that, we will not leave this land, because this is our land and we have the right to be there. We have the right to exist. And we, the Palestinian, I just wanted to say that and reaffirm this position. Palestinian love life. We were created to live, and we deserve to live free in this land.
We've talked on the program with the Israeli ambassador, among others, about the foundation of the State of Israel and how that was given the benediction of the United Nations in its early days. But, it was brought about by various forces, imperial forces, after the First World War, ultimately getting created in 1948. And then Palestinians were disenfranchised from land that they had occupied. So, you can start the blame game wherever you are, but the current conflict, it started as a result of the events of October 7th. Now, how did you feel when you saw those events unfold? Because with your experience, you must have known that the Israelis would react perhaps not as harshly and as fiercely as they have now, but you must have despaired that what was going to rain down upon your fellow citizens in Gaza.
Listen, I mean, the whole issue wasn't started, as you know, as everybody knows, that this what happens now. It's not started on the 7th. It has a long history of oppression, occupation, colonization. I mean, the expectation of the Palestinian as a result of the 7th of October, like it's not us. It's get out of any sight of anybody on this earth. But that is not the case when you come to the rights of the Palestinian. Yes, in 1947, the partition plan gave the Israelis the right to exist. After like 30 years, we signed the Oslo Accord. The Palestinian, recognize the right for Israel to exist. They recognize the PLO. But since then, we've been negotiating with Israel and we reached nothing. More colonization in the West Bank. And when we arrived to the 7th of October, we've been warning the whole world that this oppression, this occupation, this colonization will lead to an explosion. And this explosion happened. The consequences of that is the whole world, we witnessed that, how the international community didn't react. They didn't manage to come to a one point to stop Israel from bombarding Gaza. I mean, we reach in a point that, we, the Palestinian, the humanity failed us. The international humanity, the international community failed us. Where we should go? Our people need to be protected, and our rights needed to be protected as well.
The issue, as you say, it does go back to the formation of Israel and the recognition that Israel had a right to have some sort of a statehood in the Middle East, but Palestine also to have a statehood. That actually never happened, and so many Palestinians ended up in Jordan and elsewhere, as well as the Gaza Strip and on the West Bank. But there is one part of the Palestinian operation politically and militarily which is bent on the destruction of the state of Israel. This is why Israel will say it's an existential matter for us, in the same way as you are saying now that what's happening to Palestinians in Gaza is absolutely existential. I mean, Gaza is being flattened. It's being, made unlivable in.
Pat, in any nation, you will find different like opinions, different factions. When you talk about the Palestinians, the majority of the Palestinian people, they look at Palestine as a free, but we chose Palestinian. We chose the path of peace, and we signed it. And the international community were we're there, like witnessing what the Palestinian, and we were consistent. We didn't change it. As I said, in any nations, they might be people who support different ideas. There is the right, the extreme right. There is the left. Now we witness in Israel. What we witness in Israel, it's a far right government that destroy not only the Palestinian but the Israeli community themselves. In every community, there will be people who are not like the majority, but the majority of the Palestinians, they support peace, and we signed about it, and we were committed about it.
And obviously, ordinary Palestinians who had nothing to do with the firing of rockets at Israel, nothing to do with the incursion on October the 7th and the kidnapping of hostages and the killing of more than 1,000 people, ordinary Palestinians did not do that. So going back to my question about how you felt what would happen, because the affront to Israel was enormous, and I compared it to if 800 people in the Republic of Ireland were massacred in one day and a number of our citizens were kidnapped. I know how feeling would be running high in this country, and I'm sure you understood how feeling would run high in Israel, but did you fear for what has now unfolded, that the retribution from Israel would be disproportionate and huge?
Listen, I mean, I think we passed through this conversation over the time, like since Israel, I mean, launched its war against Gaza. And even the comparison, it's unfair. I mean, what we witness now is what is the, like, we have to build on this. Um, it has been, I mean, like, I know that how the Israeli people feel, but I know how really the Palestinian people feel after 3 months of being bombarded and like thousands of families grieving. I mean, if I wanted to go into details, you wouldn't but expect, like, what I'm saying on, like, the comparison is unfair. I
Yeah.
mean,
But is
there
it,
is a people,
one of my listeners, a number of them, and
yes.
I'll just give you one. It's typical of the questions that are coming in. As ambassador, how do you feel about having to represent those people, the terrorists who committed those outrageous crimes on the 7th of October? Because, in your job, you kind of, in representing the people, you're also, in a sense, representing that extreme faction.
I represent the Palestinian people. I represent, like, well, like, let me put it in that way, and I will come back to your questions. I mean, tell me. I mean, Mr. Leo Varadkar, Mr. Michal Martin. He's I mean, Mr. Leo Varadkar, the head of the government. He said that I don't want to support, like, these people who are really far extremists of the Irish community. I don't represent them. He's representing the whole Irish people. I represent the whole Palestinian people. It's not a matter of, like, I should put excuse. This is something that you might said that they are terrorists, but I don't see that they are terrorists. They are armed group.
I
They
know. Hang on
believe
a
in
second.
resistance.
People,
Yes.
people who kill pregnant women, people who kidnap children, people who kidnap babies. These are acts of terror. What are they if not terrorists?
Listen. I mean, I don't want to argue with what is the definition of terrorism. I wanted to say that we don't agree with killing innocent people. We don't agree of taking hostages of civilians. Yes, I said that. But imagine what I'm saying about the Palestinian killing of innocent Palestinians. More than 24,000 people have been killed. 70% out of them are children and women.
Mm.
Is this a comparison? It's unfair comparison, Pat. I mean, what I wanted to say is that by the international law, there is no definition of terrorism. I mean, we, the Palestinians, have the right to resist, and this is protected by international law. We chose the right, I mean, the majority of the Palestinian people chose the right of public resistance. Yes, part of our people, they still believe in that, because what we witness in the international community, that the rights of the Palestinian is denied for more than 75 years. I think if this
But is there no line you would draw? I mean, I would certainly be very critical of Israel for the disproportionate response to what happened to them on October the 7th and the targeting of facilities which will inevitably contain ordinary Palestinian men, women, and children. But there's got to be a line that you would draw as to what is acceptable from Hamas and what is not.
Listen, Hamas, they have people, I mean, who believe in that. I'm not going to go in details with this, but what I witnessed recently, I mean, from the people, the political parties of Hamas, saying that they would go for the 67 borders, which is all the Palestinian think that the right to exist and our
Mm.
right on the 67 borders, I mean, to have a free Palestinian state. I think they decided to be like that. They decided to accept it that. I mean, they announced on this position. There will be still some people who believe in resistance. It's an idea. You cannot kill the ideas. Whether I accept it, I don't accept it, I believe in that or I don't believe in that. This is part of the Palestinian people that exist, as every nation on this earth. That there are good people, there are people that you don't believe in of their ideology, but they are part of the Palestinian people. They are part of any. I mean, you cannot just exclude people because of their ideology. This is the
But
situation for the Palestinian.
were the events of October the 7th to happen in a non-partisan situation like we have, the people who did it, the people who kidnapped, would be thrown in jail. The people who murdered might face execution in some jurisdictions. Do you know what I mean? Um, because it wasn't as
Listen,
if
Pat, I said it.
Hamas attacked an army. They did not. They
Listen,
attacked
I mean, I said
civilian
it from the beginning.
populations. Yeah.
Yes, like, listen, I said from the beginning that, I mean, the Palestinian said that we reject that. We don't accept, like, kidnapping innocent people. But we are not in a normal
No.
situation. Israel is an occupying power, and we have the right to resist. Yes, there are mistakes happens. I mean, we reject the killing of innocent people. We reject of kidnapping innocent people. But I mean, why you don't discuss the idea of having Palestinians denied their rights? We are occupied. We are colonized. We are oppressed for more than 75 years. I think that's enough to give an idea of the international community that
Yeah.
those people deserve life,
Yeah.
deserve a normal life.
Two things I suppose have in recent days have happened that might give you some comfort. The European Parliament has voted to call for an immediate ceasefire. And we know that many European countries are very sympathetic to the plight of the Palestinians now in the Gaza Strip. But they want, along with that motion, the immediate release of all hostages by Hamas, things that are probably not likely to happen. The second, more dispiriting thing from your point of view is overnight Netanyahu doubling down on there will be no Palestinian state.
Let him say whatever he wants. I mean, the international community said that and recognized that the state of Palestine, I mean, in 2012, we've been recognized as an observer state. And we've been in Palestine for the past 30 years, building our institutions and the base for the Palestinian state. I mean, it's not a man who decided that. There is international community, there is international law that believe that they recognize our rights to have a state. I mean, for the European Parliament calling for the ceasefire, I know that it's non-binding and it's highly symbolical. I know that they put Hamas need to be dismantled for the ceasefire to be. I mean, if we were failed in the Security Council, I mean, where is the most binary resolution that should be implemented? I still look for a better position.
Your only real hope, I suppose, is with the United
Yes,
States
yes,
doing
yeah,
arm
yeah.
twisting of Netanyahu and his cabinet, and it's made more complex because this is an election year 2024. Ambassador, thank you very much for joining us on the line. Our first time having a conversation. I look forward to many more. Dr. Jilan Wahba Abdalmajid, thank you very much for joining us on the program.